It's okay to be human. It's okay to feel. And that there is hope and strength in all of us. And there's that light in us that you will get through, or somebody will help you get through it.
And welcome everyone to another episode of Humanity 2.0 podcast, where we are interviewing humans about humanity. Imagine that. Today's guest is Gina Economopoulos, and she is a former nun and currently is an end-of-life doula. Now, Gina, it's going to surprise you, but we've had an end-of-life doula on the show already. I'm not sure if you guys know each other or if there's like a doula network, but you guys do phenomenal work, and it is such a pleasure to have you and to share you with humanity and share everything that you're going to share today. And so first and foremost, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's a joy, and it's very exciting to be here to be with you. And I thank you ahead of time for you and your listeners to be here with us too.
Yes, very much. Thank you guys for watching and listening. We appreciate you so very much. And we hope that whatever messages that you receive here on Humanity 2.0 podcast, that they resonate with you and also help you to become better humans. That's the whole purpose of the show. So, Gina, my first question, and one of the biggest questions that I love to ask people is, are you a good human and why?
Wow. Yes, I could say today I am a very good human because of my kindness, because I believe being human is being able to be who you are. You know, being human is being, and in that is being kind, not only to yourself, but to others, because they were, and it's to have these feelings, and whether they're kind feelings and they could be negative feelings, but still that's what makes up my humanity is both sides, knowing who I am and also knowing who I'm not, so so being human just brings the best of me when I live it the best way.
And you touched on something that has not been touched on, which is knowing who you're not. Is that something that you've gathered through life experience and kind of sorted into columns and said, okay, I'm going to be this who I am and who I know myself to be? Or is this, something totally different?
Now, it took me a long time, Vanessa, to be honest, to get to that point to say, no, I'm not that person. I'm talking about because I grew up in I had a great life, a great childhood, but yet my inner self, spoke negative about me in a sense, insecurity, you're not good enough. This is who you are. And, and I carry that from, you're not loved, you're unlovable. So I'm talking in a sense, those are the negative things that I have to refute each day because, if I fall into that realm saying, yes, I'm not good enough and everything, where's my humanity in that? You know what I'm saying? Like, I really believe that I'm a child of God today. And that's what I've learned. And yes, it is through my experiences. It's through pain and suffering and through searching and realizing, wow, I can be human. I don't have to be this person. I don't have to be a false identity. I could be Gina. And because back then, even I didn't like Gina. So as time went on, like I could say today, I know who I am. I know who I'm not. I'm not this bad person. I'm not an evil person. I'm not a person that's not good enough. No, I'm a person who is good enough. I can be loved. There were times, years ago, no, I can't be loved. Nobody's going to love me. And I'm really speaking about the interior part of being human. So listening to your voices, listening to my voices, realizing, oh my God, Gina, you are good enough. You are great. Even though, I had a lot of physical problems, even though I went through a lot of hardship, even though I felt like I was a black sheep of the family, even though I did all this that, by the time, there was a point in my life that, wow, I'm just simply existing. I'm dead. So through experiences, fast forward today, I could say, hey, I'm good enough. And those voices that I talk about, they may creep in, but you know what? No. No, I'm Gina. I'm standing forth of my identity of who I am.
Yes. I love that you are so aware and that you are so aware of yourself. And there's something to be said about those negative experiences that we've had, those hardships that we've lived through. They make us who we are as well. And I believe that there's power in embracing them and working through them, not just, skirting them under the rug, but really examining them and understanding that you survived them, that you came through them, and that they add to the color of who you are, and also how you empathize with other humans or how you sympathize with other humans. So they're very much necessary, even though they're hardships, and they definitely make you strong. I believe that you kind of examining yourself and saying, no, that's not Gina, I'm Gina. Those experiences also help you to recognize that that's not who you are. And then there's also something to be said about external influences as well, and how, projections from other people or social media or what have you, movies, just society as a whole, they tend to also kind of try to frame us as to who we are. But in knowing ourselves and being aware, we can kind of, not deflect, but we can filter out those things that we are not. So I definitely resonate with that. I definitely resonate with the black sheep thing. But then at the end of the day, what I look at is that we are just sheep. You may be a different hue of sheep at one point, but you're still a sheep. You're still a human. And so those experiences, a lot of folks would say that they wouldn't give them up. They wouldn't go through life again and not have them, because they make you who you are. And so I'm really proud to hear you say, that those are part of you, but also that you know who you are. And you can hear that in your voice. So thanks so much for sharing that.
Vanessa, thank you so much, because it's so true. But yet it didn't happen overnight for me to say, oh yeah, thank you for this and that, everything is great. And no, see, that was my problem. I kept telling everybody that everything is great, but my insides was not. It was like a soul searching. It's like, yeah, everything. Yes, I'm fine. I never shared my true feelings. I never shared to say, no, this hurts me. No, I don't like this. But the way I took it on, it was like, okay, give it to Gina and I'll just dump my mouth and I'll suffer. Yeah, give it to her. I could do it. I could get through it. I don't need to be happy. I don't need to be, this or that. I'll just live a miserable life. And honestly, it was about 10 years plus. That's how I felt, that I came to a point in my life. Like I said, I was simply existing. I was dead. I was dead as a human body, soul. I mean, of course I was breathing, but many, many days I did not want to I did not want to live. I did not want to live. So I think that that's such a difference for me today, that today I do want to live. Today I want to participate in life, no matter what life brings me.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say that I think that there are a lot of people that resonate with that right now, all the time, actually, but certainly right now, there are a lot of people that are they're examining themselves, and they are thinking like, hey, I don't like this life. I don't want to be here. But then hearing you tell them that, you had those similar thoughts and you came through that, that's a big inspiration for people. And also the fact that it took you so long, and that's so true. It takes life experience. Nothing happens overnight. There isn't one quote. There isn't one book, as some may have us think. There isn't one answer, but it is literally just a culmination of experience and resilience and just hanging in there. Anytime that I've ever seen someone say something on social media that, they're doing really bad and they really don't want to be here anymore, my response is always stay anyway. Because we've all been, or not all of us, but a lot of us, I included, have been in that place where you do not want to be here and you're just walking through life, as a body, just walking through life. And you think that it is a selfless thing to just, take everyone's stuff and just kind of go forward and not be part of the world and just move along. But really it's doing damage to yourself and not letting you become who you should be. So over time, as we get older, we tend to then, reevaluate and say, hey, no, that's not okay. And then we start to blossom, and that's great. So for those people who are listening or watching, and if you're in that bad place, stay anyway, because what I also tend to say is that, just as quickly as it got dark, it can also quickly get light. Something can change every moment. Things change. Tomorrow may be far better. It may be the best day of your life, even though today is the worst day of your life. So stay anyway is what I tell people.
Amen. I totally agree with you, Vanessa. I mean, it's just so true. It's so true. And, not only I would just keep breathing. That's why just keep breathing, even if it's one breath at a time, because I know many people, including myself, have experienced grief. And I was in such grief at one point in my life that was complicated. And that's where it just brought me to my knees in so many ways. And what I've learned is that, okay, I just one breath at a time, because also there's no words to tell someone what to do, or like, this is how to do it to get out of what you're going through. A, B, C. Yes, stay. Simple. Yes, breathe. But everything else, I could share my experience and you could share your experience. But I feel, and I do believe that they each have their own experience, their own journey with God or with someone greater than themselves that will show them. And they may hear your experience and they may hear my experience and they may go try it. Like, oh yeah, this is what I did. They may do it and say, oh, this tastes good. I'll keep doing this. Oh no, this doesn't taste good. Okay. Maybe I'll read this book, or maybe I'll be directed here, or maybe I'll just cry. I mean, I'm, like, let me just let it all out, or whatever it may be. So, what I found for my own self, because when I was going through my darkness, people were telling me, oh, you got to do this, do this, feel this, feel this. And I'm like thinking, really? Really? Do you know what happened in my shoes? Did you see what I saw? Did you experience as being a Catholic nun, being persecuted, being emotionally abused? Were you there those 2 years when I was in that dark time? And you're telling me, oh, yeah, like this and that. I mean, they mean well. We all mean well. And maybe I mean well to people. But when it comes down to it, it is your own personal journey. It's your own heart, your own soul. First, you realize you're alive. And there's something greater than you that will help you through. I mean, because I always remember there was times like, if you told me to stand in the corner, I would stand in that corner and the pain would go away. But that's not the case. There's always going to be something, because I was just grasping for straws until I realized, okay, I got to feel it, or I have to go through it, or I have to embrace it. And there were some things that I was aware of, but you know what, God, not now. I'm going to put that in the back burner. So what I've learned from myself is to be true to myself. It's to be real. And to me, that's what being human is all about, is to be real, which took me a while to really be like, yes, I am human. Yes, I could have these feelings. Yes. Oh yeah, I could get angry. Yeah. Yes, I could cry. It doesn't mean that I'm a weak person. Yes, I can be hurt. Okay, I'm hurt. I'm tired. I can't put this wall up anymore. I'm hurt. And that's what's like we shared. It's all through experience. It's all through what life has given me. And so today, I'm in a much better place today than I was. And you're right. I would do it all over again. I do remember, Vanessa, when you say that, was that when I was a nun, and I was a nun for 12 years, and the last 2 years was pure hell, just simple as that. And during that 2 years, I was experiencing such pain of isolation, betrayal, you name it. I was like sent away, etc. And all I kept thinking to myself is that I'm so glad this is happening to me, not to another sister, because I don't think they could handle it. I don't think they could really handle the pain, this emotional pain, the mental pain, the spiritual pain I was experiencing, that they would have given up. I almost gave up. And if I had given up, then I would have put myself into an institution, because that's where I was headed. If I didn't persevere, or just didn't do what this community wanted me to do. So I just say that, and it is true, because in hindsight, I look back at that too, that time of real darkness, or time as a sister, I wanted to not to live, that thank God I went through that.
Yeah.
I'm glad I did. And I would go through it again and again, so that nobody else would experience that.
Yeah.
But people have, so I can't hold that back. But that's just that's who I became. And so I don't, not that I don't regret it. Of course, 30 years ago, I would have made, if I'm the person I was 30 years ago, I would have made better choices. I wouldn't have gone through all that, that pain and suffering. I wouldn't have done all that. I wouldn't have maybe joined a convent, whatever. But that wasn't me. And I have to realize that, it had been the best thing for me to be who I am today.
Right.
Like,
and it is definitely part of your life experience for sure. Now, we'll definitely go into that more a little later, but that is very unique. Of course, no one says, "Oh, I know this nun who had this life and this really interesting, situation that happened to her that formed." Like, no, I don't know anyone that knows a nun with your story. But yeah, we will definitely get into that more. But I'm so thankful for you and that you got through that part of your life and that you're here now. So just need to say that. You reminded me of a personal story that I've shared before, but I'll share it again just because, repetition is good. So I was reminded of how throughout life, I've always focused on other people. I've always been of a servant's heart, serve other people. That's how I find joy. And that makes me so happy. Always has. And in that, you tend to let go of what you need and you don't think of yourself first. You think of everyone else. You take care of everyone else. And then if you're lucky, you remember to come back. But I didn't. So many years passed. And in this recent last year, a lot of changes happened. But one thing I did was I was walking around and I think maybe I was in between podcast recordings and I wasn't feeling too well. And I was trying to figure out why. But then for the first time in my entire life, I kid you not, I asked myself, what do you need? Never did that before. Never. The most simple question you can ask yourself or that someone normal would think to ask themselves. I never did. And so that one day, and I said, what do you need? And I thought, okay, I need nourishment. I need water because I have a headache. And that was what I needed. And I gave it to myself. I actually went through and had something to eat, had some water and had maybe some ibuprofen. And I felt, better right away. But in the past, I would not have done that. I wouldn't have thought to ask myself, what do you need? And in that, I found a lot of, I guess, power and a lot of knowledge and understanding that I needed to ask myself more about what I needed and in different ways. So now I kind of try my best to ask myself that when I'm not doing so well. I'll ask myself, well, what do you need right now? It's pretty basic, but it's just interesting to think of, something so simple that we don't do because we're so busy, serving others or helping others that we don't think about ourselves as much as we should when we really need to do that just as much.
True. Amen to that. Amen, Vanessa. That's so true. It is so true. I truly identify with you in many ways because I'm a people pleaser by trait. I want everyone to be happy. I want everyone to be peaceful. And yet I'm aware of that today. And yes, there are times that I need to take a step back, breathe, take care of Gina, first. First things first is take care of Gina before I get overwhelmed with others.
Yeah. And I would encourage everyone watching, listening to do the same thing because, man, imagine if we actually took the time to ask ourselves, what do you need? And then follow through. I mean, I'm pretty proud of when I remember to eat because I'm so busy all the time. I'm always working on something, always doing something. If I'm not home, I'm somewhere else. And I have to remember to take time to eat. And then I'm super proud when I do, and I do it, and it's just basic things to take care of ourselves so we can take care of everybody else in moderation, not forgetting who we are and what we need. So I really enjoy that. In the later years of life, I mean, I'm 41. I'm going to be 42. I'm not, not that later, but I'm starting to understand more about, I guess, that next half of your life and what you're going to do with it and how are you going to be different or what do you want to change and what do you want to do with it? Of course, being of service to others will always be my life. It'll always be there, but in what respect and in what ways will you help inspire others to do the same? So it's like at a certain point you reach, I guess, like I don't know, maybe like a peak where you are able to look back and look at your hardships, look at how you felt and I guess observe your reactions to things and say, okay, I'm going to break this, recurring feeling or recurring experience. Maybe, I'm being too selfless and I need to kind of pull back and I need to regularly do something else instead to help myself as opposed to just always giving yourself, and you have nothing left. So I'm understanding that we are needing to constantly evaluate the past and so we can move forward in the present, but then also ask yourself, what are you going to do with the future? And also, how are you going to help everyone behind you or beside you? And you yourself have written a memoir, and I'm sure that memoir has helped other folks. And again, we'll definitely go to that here in a little bit. What I also want to ask you about is shared humanness. Now, shared humanness is part of our life. We share humanness with everyone that we interact with. And so typically there are people in our lives that we recall, many of which is the case, but people that we recall who their humanity displayed, it changes something in us. And it changes how we look at the world and how we look at humanity. I know there's probably many, but who is one person that comes to mind right away for you?
My dad. Yes, I can't share enough about my father. My dad was always there for me throughout my life, throughout my childhood. Like I shared, I was in the hospital a lot and he was there, and just his kindness and his non-judgmental. I mean, there were so many things I had to go. I asked him, and where other people say don't do it, and he says he would always say, if God wants you to do it, you'll do it. And to me, that was an open blessing. That's like an open love. He and as well as my mom, I can't forget my mom. They loved us unconditionally, but yet he just showed me what it was, how to be really kind and generous to others. And because not only, he was to me and to the family, I'm from one of 8 kids, but for all those he met, right? He never had a bad word about anything. He may not like it, what's going on, but he would never have a bad word. He would say, okay, we'll make some lemonade out of these lemons, or things that would happen. And even, I have to say, my mom wasn't around when was a nun, but when he was around, so he always supported me. Dad, I'm joining the convent. Okay. Dad, I'm leaving the convent. Okay. Where other people are like, they had their opinions. They had their, my father's like, okay, whatever you need. And so, yes, my father, it was the first one when you had asked that question, came to my mind because, and I just shared this little story when I was in the hospital for about 6 weeks. He would come every morning to the hospital at 6 a.m. on his way to work, give me a kiss on the forehead and leave me a little donut. And to me, that's just kindness. That's just love. That's loving. And then on the way home, he would come and pick up Burger King, whatever. If I was able to eat something, he would always there. And that's what I think. Yeah. So my
That's
father.
beautiful. I'm so thankful that you had such loving parents. There are plenty of folks that did not have both parents or have a loving home. And I find that when you don't have that initially as a foundation, for some people, and I'm speaking for myself here, but for some people, they tend to then do differently with their children. So for instance, I have an adopted son from previous marriage. With him, what I didn't have growing up, what I did not receive, I gave him the whole world. I gave him everything. I taught him how to be a good human. I taught him how to do basic functions. So when he was of age, out of the house, he wasn't calling me at 2 a.m. saying, how do I turn on the microwave? Just all the basic things that you should know. So I prepared him for the world, but I also prepared him internally on how to, be good and how to empathize and sympathize with other people and understand that the whole world is not about you. It is not about you. Yes, you are part of the world, but it is not all about you. And you have to be able to receive other people and to help them if you can, but also just be, part of humanity. So thank God it all stayed with him. He's an excellent 22-year-old. He works at a flower shop and he loves it. He has all of his friends. And when he first moved out, because he moved back, they never tell you that they moved back, but they do. The first time, he told me one night, he was so proud. He was like, Mom, I am the most responsible one of all of my apartment friends. He was like, I'm the one that tells everyone to pay their bills. And he was so proud. That made me so proud that he was the responsible one. And he's just so funny to watch. It's hilarious how when they're growing up and they need you and they have all these questions. And then at one point, something just clicked when he was 18. I remember he was graduating high school and he said, I think I need to start looking at how I put my funds into the bank and how I pay these particular bills and how much I go out. And I said, who are you? Where's my kid that spends all this money on toys? Like, when did this happen? But somehow that happens. They turn into people, they turn into adults, and it's just amazing to watch. So Not really sure why I went on that tangent, but it's just interesting to watch.
No, but it is. But it's just so beautiful because that gives hope. It gives hope for this younger generation. Because, I mean, for me, I wish everybody grew up the way I grew, was taught the morals, the traditions, the kindness, the respect. Let's respect. We may not get along. We may not like everything, but yet the respect, the love, and everything like that. And that's what I grew up with in my family because I was the seventh child. And plus I was the child that was born with everything wrong, but yet my parents treated me as like the other children, the other siblings, whatever they need. And of course we were born in different generations, different times. So things were differently, but yet there was that core of love and respect and the morals that we brought up with. And I'm just so grateful that, I don't have any kids of my own. I have a lot of spiritual kids. My plan was to have 8 kids, but that wasn't in the plan. So I had to let go of that plan because, of course, as a nun, I had joined the nunnery. So, but yet I just, how do you say? I give a lot of credit like to you when you share, that's such a joy to hear about your and seeing where he's at, because those are the stories that we need to hear. We need to hear because that there is hope in our generation today. And there's hope in life. There's such hope today.
Yeah. That is so something we need to highlight is the hope, because there is so much of, the other side of things. There's so much negativity, polarization, all sorts. You can name everything negative under the sun, but that was like, the mission behind the show is to put out that additional positive content out there and also, produce that hope and help that humanity 2.0 that we could become. Now, I have a similar situation in that I did not have children either biologically. And so funny enough, when I was, I want to say about to be 30, I said, well, if I don't have kids by the time I'm 30, then, because, you tell yourself, oh, I need to be married by a certain age. And of course I did that. That was silly. But I said, if I'm not married, or if I don't have kids by the time I'm 30, then I'll just adopt. I'll just adopt them. I'll adopt an older child so I can give them a better life. Because again, I was always, wanting to help others. And then, I met my ex at the time, my husband at the time, and he already had a child. And I was like, oh, cool. Mine just came pre-baked is all. That's what I tell people. So I adopted him, and he's been mine ever since, he was 7 years old. And families are put together in different ways. We may not think that we are going to have them, or, like you, I wanted 6 kids. I come from a big family, and my mother's family is huge. And that's a blessing too, to come from a big family and remember all of those memories with cousins. And I was the baby, but as the baby, they always say, oh, the baby gets everything. Not true. I got nothing. I had to raise myself. And so I didn't have 6 kids, and I have the one, but just the life experience, it's a ride, and you just roll with it, really.
Yeah. It is true. What life brings you, at first you go on that path. And I think the greatest fear we all have is the fear of the unknown. Where's this path leading us? Well, how come? I wanted to be married now, but not, or whatever. And then once we kind of let go of that notion and have more faith and hope, saying, there's something good for me. And it shows up. It does. It comes in all different size, shapes, disguises.
Yep.
It does. And that's from what I've learned. Yeah.
I wasn't planning to have a divorce. You're planning to be, you think you're going to be married forever, and then life changes things. And then you tell yourself, oh, I'm going to not do any kind of relationship for some time. And then somebody comes along and you're like, oh my goodness. Life is interesting.
Well, I thought I was going to be a nun for the rest of my life. But as you can tell, I'm not a sister anymore. 12 years. And I didn't think, I never thought when I made my final vows, like your wedding, marriage, everything, I married God. I was like, okay. And then here, I get kicked out or whatever. And you have to go through all those feelings, or I did, and it says feeling rejected, from me by God. I was like, God, why you rejected me? You called me. So there's so much into that. So
Yeah, for sure. Goodness. And funny enough, the minute that I decided, you know what, I'm just going to give it all to God, because, as you're growing up through church and they're like, give it all to God. And you're like, okay, I'll give you 95%. I'll keep 5 and then you get 95, or, whatever the percentage is throughout your life. And then eventually when you come to that point and you're like, you know what, take everything and you tell me what to do, because clearly I'm not doing it right, or I'm not doing it well enough. And then the minute I did that, like everything just became amazing after that. Not to, go too much on to that, but yeah, the minute that I said, okay, I will just let you, God, handle everything, just life got so much better. And then, I met the love of my life just all of a sudden, and had other things happen as well, but just crazy things. And, life has been amazing ever since. So it's been really interesting.
But also, Vanessa, that needs to be told too. That needs to be heard, of what you just shared about your experience. As you give up to God, higher power, something greater, it ain't easy at first, because it's like, for me, it's like, okay, God, I give you 95%, but I'm going to take that back.
Yes.
No, I'm going to take, no. I mean, it's like a give and go. Can you really handle this?
Yeah. And what you were saying earlier about, having that fear of the unknown. Well, I've kind of always been excited about that. I've always been the opposite. Like, I want to have this, like, I don't know what's going to happen, because sometimes knowing what's going to happen is kind of boring. Now, just kind of like flipping the script a little bit, your journey into your work as a death doula. As I said earlier, we've met a death doula here on the show before, but I was very curious when reading about you, and I wanted to ask, is your work as a death doula in any relation to your mother's passing?
Yes. Yes, 100%. My mom died 33 years ago in January, but not at that time. When my mom died, I wasn't like, I'm going to be a death doula. I didn't know what a death doula was until a few years ago. So but yet being at my mom's bedside at her death, me taking care of her, I didn't have any hope, faith, love, or God in my life. So it was pure hell watching your loved one die from bone cancer, going to a heaven. What's heaven? And so I experienced hell on earth. That to me was hell. But that wasn't the end of the story for me, which I thought it was. That's it. Mom died. My best friend, I'm 23 years old. That's it. I'm a bartender. So once again, God with my journey, I came back to my Catholic faith because I was raised in the church, as a Catholic. Through my mom's death, it's like, okay, what is heaven? Like you hear these things, but as a kid, I didn't want nothing to do with God really, because I wanted to do with what other people, to please other people, to be cool and all that stuff, to be loved by the outside world. So then as my journey finding God back again, I came back to my Catholic roots. And then I became a nun. That's how I became a nun. I just went right into becoming a sister, saying, okay, now I'm a Jesus lover. I want to follow Jesus. And I did. And it was during my convent days as a sister that it just so happens that I got to know what the taste of heaven is. The taste to be with Jesus, be with God. So by this point, I'm like, wow, Mom, you're in heaven. You're with God. Because my mom was a faithful Italian rosary person. And so I know she was with God. And so here, I'm like, oh my God, I said, is this what heaven's like? So I believe it was God's design for me as a nun, that he put me in many, many places of people at their deathbed, at their bedside. Was I a doula then? I guess I was, but I didn't realize it. But on the other hand, Vanessa, I loved it. It was my passion. It was to help these young grandmothers, you name it, men, women of all ages, to send them home. Yeah, I'm here to help to pack your bags to go home, because I know where you're going. They may not know. They may not have they may have a different faith, and that's okay with me. But just being there, and God did, so I was there with so many. I was there with many, many numerous people who passed away. I just happened to be there, may not know them or not. Sister, can you go pray with this person? I go pray with the person. The person dies, and they're like, "Oh my God, your name is Sister Death. Don't send me by my bedside." I was like, "Okay, I won't go by your bedside, unless you call me." And so it just developed. And then also talking about another hero of mine is Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa would always say, give the people the dignity to die, the children, whoever you are, the dignity to die, whether you're on the street, wherever you are. So that just stirred in my heart. And so fast forward, I left the nunnery and I didn't really think of anything like that, but I wouldn't mind if someone had called me when I, say, hey, could you go visit so-and-so? Yeah, pray, whatever it may be. And then a few years ago, a friend of mine had said to me, do you know you could be an end of life doula? And I'm like, oh, what is that? I don't know what that is. Well, you could be with people present dying. Really? And you get paid for it? Not, your service. And because you have a heart of service, that's where my heart too. I do have a heart of service of all people. And it really grew for those who are dying. So a few years ago, I did during COVID, I got my certificate. I did the class. I knew it all. Not that I knew it all. I wasn't scared. I understood it. It was like a joy, like, yeah. And now today, when people call me for their service, do I get many calls every day? No. Once in a blue moon, I leave it in God's hands. God, you know who you want me to be with whoever it may be, to talk to share, to be with, to pray, to be with the family. Because like I shared with you earlier, I've been through grief so many times.
Mhm.
Like today, grief is my best friend. Kind of still, it could still be, but I'm familiar with grief and with those who are grieving or watching someone dying or whatever it may be. I just bring them to God and I just realize I'm there for them because I've been there. And the best thing I could do is not to say a word, just to be present.
Yeah. I would propose that you were actually a doula in training throughout your life.
Yeah.
Before you knew what it was, you were a doula in training. That's what it is.
I like that. I never thought of that because it is true because my mom's, when she was dying, out of all the 8 kids, the hospice came in, which I didn't really know what hospice was. And the social worker came up to me and says, you're the one to give permission for your mom to die. I said, over my dead body, am I giving permission to my mother to die? That's how hard I was. I'm not doing it. But then in hindsight, I did do it. I was the last one to say, okay, Mom, you could go home. And she listened to me. I was like, why are you listening to me now? But she had a beautiful death.
Yeah, I feel like grief is so multifaceted. It really is. There's so much that we receive from it, so much that stays with us even after that they're gone. As I mentioned earlier, my son, I adopted him. And so his biological mother passed away when he was 14. And that was when I adopted him. And so she didn't tell us that she was sick. Soon enough, she was in hospice and then she was gone a week later. But it really stayed with us in different ways. So for my ex-husband, he grieved a previous wife. For my kid, they grieved their mother, but they also had a complicated relationship. So it took them some time to be okay. And then for me, kind of on the outside, but not really on the outside, I had to, I guess, kind of come to terms with where she was coming from as far as how she mothered. I read so many journals, after they pass, you're clearing out their house and you learn so much about these people that passed when they're gone. Through their personal effects, you learn so much. And I read all these journals and I came to understand why she was the way she was. But then I also found something really interesting. She was a poet and she wrote a ton of poetry before our kid was born. And she did a lot of public, slam poetry, and she was very creative. And all the things that she did with her life, she never really got to achieve, that place of feeling like she was accomplished, even though she wrote a lot. And so I found all of these writings throughout the house and I put them all into book bags, but I got all of them together. And after she passed away, I thought, it's sad that she didn't really get to do anything with her work. And as a creative person, it makes me sad too, right? And so I started taking those poems and typing them up on a blog, and the blog is active. And then I started taking photos of some because my hands got tired. So I started taking photos and posting these photos. And so I've been working on this for a few years now, just because life gets in the way and such. But I thought that it would be a very, very big act of compassion to put her work out in the world and let it remain, even though she's gone. I just felt like that was something I had to do because it just felt wrong that, something that you were so passionate about just kind of gets thrown out. And I just thought it would be something, to do as a tribute for another human, not for the mother of my kid, but just as a human, it just felt like the thing to do. And so I've been working on that for a few years.
And that's beautiful, Vanessa, because it speaks to me that somebody read those poems that you wrote and touched that person at that moment in their life. And it could be one person, but that's what it was meant. So it's like, we don't know why. It's a mystery. But if you, in hindsight, dominoes effect, and there was a reason why she didn't explore her creativity, it doesn't matter, because today, it just brings me such joy to hear that, because I just know many people are touched, whether it was whatever you posted it, whatever they read it, like, I needed to hear that today.
Yeah.
I love
seeing when people say that. I love saying that, when you come across a message. Actually, somebody posted something to me today and I responded, I really needed to hear that today. So
Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean, for sure.
Yeah.
Now, I understand that you have a memoir and that you are quoted as referencing the story of resilience through tragedy and faith that inspires others to face life's challenges. If you would be so kind as to share a little bit of that story with us, so that way the viewers and listeners can kind of become familiar with your story and also identify with that memoir that they're going to read.
Yes, it is. It's called Shake the Dust Off Your Feet and Walk. It's a biblical scripture that I had chosen. And it's something similar that I was sharing with you, but in depth. It's like growing up. It's from the beginning I was born to where I am today, of going through all different challenges of life, I call it today. Yes, I went to become a sister, and then my experiences as a sister in more details, that I was emotionally abused, but just getting through all that. And then as my journey continues, I end up falling in love with an alcoholic, and he's in my book, Danny, but then he died from the disease. So that's a story in itself, tragically. And of course, it affected me. Alcoholism affects the whole family. And so when he died tragically, and I lost many others in between that. But then through his death back in 2013, that I said he died as being an alcoholic, that I went on my own journey once again, and I'm in the rooms of AA. So I am a former nun, but an alcoholic today with almost 11 years of sobriety. And that's where I really found myself. Yes, I'm an alcoholic, but it's not who I am. I am a child of God who's a sober woman of faith. And that's what my memoir is all about, it's the journey from being a nun, from leaving a nunnery, from pain, suffering, losing a loved one. My fiance, like I said, Danny, I found him a month before our wedding day. So it's just a lot of darts, one would say, a lot of pain. And to be honest, it's a true miracle where I am today, because 30 years ago, I would never think I was an alcoholic. I'm a slow learner. And I'm not saying that people out there are all alcoholics that will solve their problem, but I just know for me, that's where my journey began. So I'm in the rooms of AA today, where I work a 12-step program, and that's all in my memoir book. And today I live with another alcoholic, Danny brought into my life. So there is possibility to be loved again. And there's so many more possibilities and miracles in my life that God has for me, as well as for us all, as well as for the world.
That is quite the story, lady. I was going to say young lady, but no, that is quite the story. And I can see why it is in the book form, and thankfully so. Thank you so much for putting that into a book for people to read and to identify with, or gain some form of perspective and hope and all the wonderful things that will come from that. And also, a side note, congratulations on your sobriety. That is immense. I love congratulating people on their sobriety. And I have a friend who is, I can't recall exactly how far he is, but I know that every time he hits a milestone, our little group of friends are just there to applaud him and to send love. So anyone that's watching or listening, dealing with sobriety, or not dealing with sobriety, you know what I mean?
No, yeah.
You know what I mean. Yeah, just congratulations. And congratulations for being around every day. That's what I want to say. Now,
yes.
One of my favorite questions to ask people, and this is pertaining to your current work, if you can tell us, what is the why behind what you do? And then tell us what you do.
Okay. The why behind what I do is, because I love it. It's a passion of my heart. I believe it's God's calling for me. And right now I'm able to hear God's calling. And I do that for the glory of God, to give him glory, because what he's done in my life, it's what I do. And what I do today is not only being present to those who are dying, to send them off to their glory, is also, helping others. It's giving that strength and faith and hope and even sobriety to others. I'm very much involved in my rooms of AA. So I'm there for my hand is always out for another person who's struggling for grief, So the reason why is because what I've been through, I know that there was hope for me. So when people go through it, like I said earlier, I can't take it away. I can't tell you what to do, but just to be present, just to bring God's presence into the situation, or if they have a question, to be there. If not, just to pray. And because I love to pray. And I always love when I hear that people who have passed away, and it is so sad to hear that, but they come into my heart. Like your son's mom. I don't know her name, but it's like, wow. Okay, I got another person that's going to be a friend with today, and so so I do it just to bring joy, not only to myself but to others, to others behind it all. So
yeah,
there's nothing specific, but it's in general. It's just my why is to give glory to God, and that's the reason why I do it, from my own personal experience.
and then what you do is the death doula work, correct?
Yeah, what I do with it, what I do is just being who I am and being there for people, and being at, whether it's visiting, being at somebody's death, praying, reaching out to someone. I could get along with anyone, everyone. You could be on the streets or you could be in the palace, and I have no problem being there and
Yes.
helping them in any aspect.
I love that quality. I think it's an excellent quality to have. I am the same way. And we share a lot of similarities, Gina. I'm not even kidding. My mother also passed in January last year, though. And so I am part of that Lost Mommy Club. But it doesn't, I don't know. It is a day-to-day thing where you learn something new and you're like, oh, we're still grieving. We're still here. But then there are other days where you're like, I'm so happy that they are at rest and they are at peace now. They are with all the other relatives and they are just having the time of their life playing bingo, because that's what she loved to do. And so I imagine there's like bingo all night long, which that's amazing. I mean, who wouldn't love bingo all night long?
No, that is true. And moms are special. Yeah, it is true. And I'm sorry for your loss, because a year is fresh. 2 years is fresh. 3 years. 33 years is fresh. Seems like yesterday. Grief is like it's another journey. You have your faith journey, you got your grief journey, and there's a journey that is just between you and your higher power, your God, whoever you turn to get you that strength and power and love that's outside of you.
Yeah, I agree. And sorry for your loss as well. I meant to say that earlier, but I didn't. Yeah. I was so captivated by your telling us everything about you. It's been amazing. Can you tell people where to find you as far as website, social media, all that good stuff?
Yes, GinaEcon.com is my website. The book you can find it on Amazon, Shake the Dust Off Your Feet and Walk. And Gina Economopoulos is my Facebook as well as my Instagram. So I'm still learning how to do media.
Well, you're doing a good job. And all of those links will be listed in the description of the episode. So not to worry. Everyone's going to know exactly where to find you, Gina. Not physically, but they'll know where to find your work.
Thank you.
Well, I'm sensing you're in New York, right? Or
yes,
where are you
I'm
now?
in Jersey. I'm in New Jersey. And I also like to share with you could contact me through my website if anybody wants. I encourage anyone, if they want a prayer or they have a question, or if they're going through a hard time, or even if they don't get my book or whatever, if they hear this and it's like, oh, I would like to see what she thinks of this. And if I can answer it, I answer it. And I'll be very honest. About it.
Yeah.
So I just offer that to anyone.
Move over Delilah. There needs to be an Ask Gina. That's what I'm saying. Do you remember
Why
Delilah? I can't stand her. I don't know why. I mean, everyone loves her, but I just can't stand her. If you, and this is, feel free to take a moment before answering this question, my most favorite in the entire world. If you could share a message with humanity, any message at all, what would that message be?
I would share, it's okay to be human. It's okay to feel. And that there is hope and strength in all of us. And there's that light in us that you will get through, or somebody will help you get through it. But yes, not to give up. Just don't give up. Do not be discouraged. And it's okay. It's okay to be human.
That is an excellent message. Thank you so much for sharing that. And also thanks to Podmatch for matching us up. Podmatch, if you guys are not familiar with them, they are an excellent platform for not only podcast ghosts, but podcast host and guest. They do both. Wow, I've never said that before. That's funny. That's staying in there. But Podmatch is an excellent platform for you to find guests if you are a host. It's almost like a dating service, but better. No dating, all quality folks. And then if you have a book or if you have something to say, you can join as a guest and you can be guest on some of the most amazing shows that you'll see on the internet, on the interwebs. So be sure to check them out. Also, link in the description as well. Thank you so much, Gina, for being here and sharing your world with us, sharing your humanity with us. I am just so happy to have met you as a fellow human and to connect with you on so many levels. So above all else, thank you so very much for being here. Appreciate you.
Thank you. And thank you to all your listeners. And I appreciate you all.
Yes. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for watching and listening. And be sure to catch the next episode of Humanity 2.0 podcast. You'll find it on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple. You'll find it everywhere and social media as well. So be sure to continue that human conversation by following and subscribing on all the platforms. And then also you can help support the show by buying Humanity a cup of coffee on buymeacupofcoffee.com/Humanity 2.0 podcast. Above all, don't forget to be good to other humans, and we will see you next week when we talk humanity with other humans. Imagine that. Thanks so much. Humanity 2.0 podcast is brought to you by Vanessa the Vivacious Productions. Want to be a guest? Visit the link in the episode description for future guest opportunities. Ready to podcast like a boss? Join Podmatch and begin your Podmatch journey via the link also listed in the description. Subscribe to Humanity 2.0 podcast on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and more. Follow and help support the show by buying Humanity a cup of coffee via buymeacupofcoffee.com/Humanity 2.0 podcast. Above all, don't forget to be good to other humans. See you guys next time.